I've been a Windows user for quite some time, and then I decided I wanted to buy a Mac because I wanted to use it for video editing. That was the reason for it. And did quite a bit of research and wanted to decide which would be the best Mac for me. I think there are a few considerations that you have to look at if you are looking out to buy a Mac and this is your first Mac. What do you really look for? What are the features you require? How much money are you willing to spend? That should kind of guide you. So here I've just put together a few points that I looked at, and I just wanted to share it with you. One of the primary considerations while going out to purchase your Mac or any computer for the matter is, what is your budget? Obviously, there are three choices. You have a very low budget. Medium, I'm a bit flexible. I can go either way. Or money is not an issue. That would be the best choice, obviously. But again, if you're a student or if you're somebody getting into the workforce for the first time, or you're just trying to experiment with a new or a second or a third computer. So once you have made the decision, yeah, I'm going to go with a low budget one, then there are certain things you can look for. If it's a medium one, because you're trying to work either way, you need it for your basic functions and also use for some advanced functions. So you have to decide what your needs are. Money is not an issue. Well, you can buy the best. I really don't have to tell you what. But again, it all depends on your need. You can actually maximize your returns by making the right choice in terms of what you really need. Now again, looking at the next aspect, what is your need exactly? That's something that you may want to really understand. After you've decided your budget, and if you know exactly what your needs are, you can narrow it down quite a bit. If you're buying a Mac or any computer for the matter, and you're going to use it only for your personal emails and surfing the net, all you need is a basic computer. Now, if you're going to include productivity, like creating PowerPoint presentations or keynote presentations, Word documents or Pages documents or numbers or maybe Excel, that's the next consideration you need to have. Are you going to do it quite a bit, or it's just once in a way, it's for your personal finance or your personal budgeting, or are you going to use it on a regular basis? What would be the best choice in that case? Thirdly, work. Depending upon what your work is, are you just going to use it for the needs 1 and 2, mostly personal work, emails, productivity? Then there's some consideration that you need to have. Where exactly you're going to use? Is your work requiring heavy, intense graphic usage? If you happen to be working in an environment where you're producing videos, graphic images, then you may have to have some considerations there. So that's what we want to distinguish between personal emails, productivity, and work. Work is critical. So that's something that you have to look at further. So then you have school. Most of the time, it's your productivity tools like Pages, Keynote, movies, short movies for your projects and stuff, which you will need it for. So you can actually decide very easily which computer or which Mac to pick. Now, if you're going to use the MacBook mostly for video editing or your personal videos which you create because you're an enthusiast and you have the video camera and suddenly you want to produce videos, the Mac is a very good machine for that. And you can decide based on the quality of the videos you're going to produce and the time that you require for producing. All of this can be taken into account while deciding which Mac you need. Or are you going to do it big time? Are you going to produce videos for your job, for your work, for school, or into video editing in your school? Then definitely you got to think a little bit big there. Or are you simply using it to produce videos for your YouTube, where you plan to go big time? Then you may want to think about graphic intense configuration. So that would be the distinction there. Heavy usage, a lot of processing involved, and how much time of your usage it's going to be on video editing. Then you may want to consider a graphic intense configuration. That's where we're going with this. And then we have the issue of mobility. Are you going to carry around your Mac and travel a bit? Are you going to work with this? Do you carry it on your shoulder or in your bag, or do you need it with you all the time? That's an important consideration. Now, with the different choices available there, you have quite a bit of choices we can make based on the mobility alone. So that is another criteria that I would look at before I make my final decision. Now, if you're traveling from visiting places, tourism, going from one city to the other for your vacation, or you have to do it because of your job, then again you have some considerations to make here. So we have choices to make, and once you know what your needs are, it's easy to make your decision. Now that we have made some generalizations about the procedure for deciding what is the best Mac for us, let's take a look at the website and see what we have out there and what specs we have there and how we can make a choice here. This video is mostly relating to picking a Mac, as opposed to comparing it between a tablet, a Mac, or an iMac, or a Mac Mini. We are specifically going with Mac, where we are looking at the notebooks. So here we have quite a bit of choices here, very nicely presented here. Obviously the MacBook Pro is not what we are looking for right now, so for the moment we can let that pass. And let's go to the MacBook Pro exclusive pages. Now if you come to the MacBook Pro pages, you will see quite a bit of choices here. The Retina MacBook is really good. I should say that even before I start. And you can see how amazing the screen looks, how amazing the images look, how amazing the videos look. And that's something worthwhile. So if you're looking at how good everything looks on your eye, the Retina is a good choice. So that is something that you have to think as you go along. Then you have the thin and light. You have the MacBook Air that is there, which has a Retina as well as it's pretty small, light, and comfortable to handle. We will go mostly into the specs. Now, since I said budget is a criteria, and if you are really looking to save some money, you have a choice called education. So that is, you could always go and decide to buy an education or student version of the computer if you're buying it for your child who's going to school or university, or if you are a teacher or a professor, then you can actually buy the education version of it, which gives you about from $100 to $200 off your regular price. So you can actually improve the quality or the specs of your computer with this $200, or even buy additional software for your personal needs. Or when you're trying to make a budget conscious decision, if you are a student, if you are a teacher related to education, university, school, then you may want to consider MacBook Pro from the educational website. Let's take a look at that first. So this is what we have, and let's go back. So Apple and education, that's where we have to come to. So you saw that. We can go to the website. At the bottom there's something called market, and in market you would find education. Click on the link, it brings you over here, and here you can see how what different products you have. And since we are really not looking at the tablets, we will look at the MacBooks. So we're going to go into the Apple online store and we will see what we can get there. So here you will see some pricing options for the different products that are available here, but we are going into the Mac, so let's go see the MacBook Pros. Here you are on the educational side for MacBook Pros and MacBooks. So if you look at the prices, you will see you have the MacBook Pro starting at $11.99. You have the Retina version starting at $13.49. The 13-inch 2.4 gigahertz Retina at $15.49, and then you have the 13-inch 2.6 gigahertz starting at $18.49. And the reality is, this is actually about $200 less than the regular price. So you have a price choice here. So if you're going to buy a MacBook Pro, you can go to the education side and check out the prices here and see which is the best choice for the budget. So you have your budget here. Now, all of these MacBook Pros, they are 13-inch. The MacBook Pro, the basic version that you see here, that is not a Retina version. That's the most important thing. It comes with a 2.5 gigahertz Core i5 Turbo Boost to 3.1 gigahertz, 4 GB, 1600 megahertz memory, and the hard drive capacity is 500 GB. And it has got a very basic Intel HD graphics 4000. And the battery life is 7 hours. This is actually the specs for this configuration of MacBook Pros. If you are looking at a MacBook Pro where you want a reasonably good spec, this is what you would find. Now, if you're looking at a MacBook Retina where you want to see the screen resolution, or where you are giving the screen resolution priority, then the cheapest one starts at $13.49. And the specs are very comparable to the one that we had seen. However, the processor speed, you have two choices. I think it comes from 2.4 gigahertz to 2.9 with a turbo boost. And those are the different choices. Now, one major difference between the MacBook Pro and the Retina, if you look at, this is what I find. Between these three, if you're comparing, you would find, I would look at the 128 GB flash drive. That is the hard disk space that you have for a MacBook Pro Retina, which is the cheapest, $13.49. If you want to increase the hard drive space from 128 to 256, then what you have is the price goes up by about $200. And if you really need a much more higher hard drive space based on your needs, then you're going to 512 and the price is going up considerably. So if you're looking for a Retina screen and if you're looking for a hard drive space that is really quite large based on your needs, then the price is pretty enormous. Now, this is where you can make a distinction. Do you need hard drive space? Because you're going to use it quite a bit, especially if you're into video editing and stuff, then you will need quite a bit of hard drive space. Then the 500 GB, the MacBook Pro is good with a 13-inch, but you will have to make a compromise here, go with the MacBook Pro, not the Retina version. So for that reason, here is a distinction you can make and a choice. So do you want a Retina or do you want a MacBook regular one? Because if you're going for the hard drive space and you're not willing to spend $1,800 plus tax, you can get almost the same specs for $1,199, but you don't have a Retina space. But again, you have the 500 GB hard disk. The processor speeds are comparable, and you have a 4 GB, which you can upgrade to about 8 GB without much difficulty. So here is the distinction. Is it Retina and price that you're looking at and compare it to the hard drive space. Based on that, you can either choose the basic MacBook Pro or you can go with the Retina, depending exclusively on your budget. So here, the important aspect is you're not looking at whether this is easy to carry around or what, because the MacBook Pro can be slightly heavier than the rest. So if you look at the detailed specs, you will see that. Okay, let's get out from here. Now you can actually make a more detailed comparison to the specs by selecting the MacBook. So let's go and see. Let's say we are going with the MacBook Pro based on the price consideration alone and the hard drive space that you're looking at. If I select that, where do I go to? I can actually configure the MacBook Pro that I need. If I go with the version that has been shown to me, it's costing $1,199, and that is the price. So now you can actually make some modifications in the configuration, because the default configuration is coming with 2.5 gigahertz. But if you want a 2.9 gigahertz Core i7, then you can actually get one by adding a price of $150. If you do that, the price goes up. So here is the price. You have $1,349 for a MacBook Pro, where you up the processor power. If you go back here, it becomes $1,100. So this is something that you need to think about. Do you want a higher processing power? If you are going in for video editing, well, I would go for the 2.9 because that gives you a better processing power. This would be a choice for you. Now, if you are going in for hard drive space, the two considerations to make is price versus speed of your computer. If you are okay with the pricing, then you have the hard drives that you can select from. The prices changes from 500 GB for the regular hard drive to an SSD. The price goes up to $1,449 if you choose the 2.9. Let's go with the 2.5. Then it'll be $1,299, because if your consideration is only the hard drive. So if I change it to a 128 GB solid state drive, the price is $1,399. For a 1 terabyte regular hard drive, spinning hard drive is $1,299. For a 256 GB, it goes to $1,599, and a 512, it goes to $1,899, like we had seen earlier. So this is the price change that you would see. And if you go with the higher specs in all respects, and with an 8 GB and a 512, this is going to be a price which is not an ideal configuration as far as I see it. If I'm going with a MacBook Pro, I would go with a 2.9 with an 8 GB and a 500 GB, or maybe a 1 terabyte. These are the options that I may pick for this, because you don't want to keep changing your hard drive, especially if you're going to do a lot of video editing. So my selection would be a MacBook Pro 13-inch, 2.9 gigahertz, 8 GB RAM, 1 terabyte of hard drive. If I'm going to use it for reasonably extensive video editing, and it will handle all my personal emails, productivity, audio requirements, movie requirements, and this would be an ideal choice. The other interesting aspect would be, if you have a regular hard drive, you can actually swap it, you can change it, and this one also comes with a super drive. So you have an external drive, or you have a drive which you can actually use to install software and stuff. So for that reason, one of my considerations for a medium priced MacBook, which gives me heavy intense work in terms of the graphics and hard drive space, my choice would be the MacBook Pro 13-inch with 2.9 gigahertz, 8 GB RAM, 1 terabyte serial ATA drive, would be my choice. Now again, if that's not your requirement and you need a more graphic intense computer and you need to have a very good resolution with a Retina display, you have other choices here. Now between 2.4, if you compare it between the three MacBook Retina, it's 2.4, 2.4 and 2.6. Turbo Boost gives you 2.9, 2.9 and 3.1. And the RAM is 4GB, 8GB, 8GB. Now, for most computers, that if you are going to use a little bit of graphic intense or even regular video editing, I would still go with an 8GB RAM. So it has to be 13-inch, 2.4 gigahertz, 8GB RAM, which cost about $1,549. And it also gives you a 256GB solid state drive. That gives you a decent space in terms of the content that you can actually store. The battery life goes up when you're using a Retina from 7 hours to 9 hours. That's something that you may want to think about. So here, between the three, if you're budget conscious and you want a Retina with reasonable hard drive space, I would go with this. Now, I'm not a fan of carrying around an external drive to carry around my data. So for that reason, I would need at least 256. Now, if you want to do a lot of video editing and stuff, you still will have to use an external drive to store your data. Otherwise, it's going to get used up very quickly. I can tell you that. Now, this is for the regular usage. Now, in spite of saying video editing could be done on this, but most of the time it's more convenient to have a larger screen. So if you are willing to shell out the extra money, I would think an ideal choice, which is if money is not a constraint, a 15-inch 2.3 gigahertz Retina display would be excellent. The specs are good. It has got reasonably good space for your hard drive, and it comes with a graphics card which is actually good. The NVIDIA GeForce GT 750 is good with a 2GB of GDDR5 memory, so that your GPU power is quite high. So for really good graphic intense fast computers with a large Retina screen, I think the 15-inch 2.3 is a very good choice. The primary difference between the two models that you have here, which the cost is differing by about $500 and odd, would be the hard drive space changing from 256 to 512. Again, the RAM changes from 8 to 16, so that's something that you want to look at. And then the graphics card. The graphic cards are different here. This is an Intel Iris Pro graphics card, whereas for the 15-inch 2.3 gigahertz Retina with the GeForce GT 750 would be the best if your money is not a constraint. So, video editors, other graphic intense program users, this would be a choice if money is not your constraint. So, for the budget conscious, if you're looking for a MacBook Pro, the 13-inch would be a good choice. If you're looking at an intermediate priced one with a Retina display, which is your criteria, you could go for the $1,549 version of the MacBook Pro Retina display. That's what I would go with. Good processing power, I would go with the $2,650 one. That's regarding the 3 or 4 or 6 MacBook Pros that you have over here, was in which you compared 13-inch Retina versus regular, and then the 15-inch, which has the more powerful graphics card. Now let's get back to the MacBook Air. Now here there are a number of positive aspects for people who are budget conscious, and if you're looking for mobility, and mostly these are not for heavy graphic intense work. That should be very clear. So if you're buying a MacBook Air, you are looking for mobility, you're looking for travel comfort, the ease of carrying it around. The 11 inch is a really cute computer that you can have around with you, especially if you want to do some serious work while on the go, better than a tablet. It can do productivity is much better. So for that reason, the 999 11-inch 128 GB MacBook Air is a very good choice for the traveler who is budget conscious. For the person who needs to check his mails, do productivity work like pages, Excel, everything can be done on this. But again, you got to be one with very good vision. If you're a young person or a kid who's going to university and you're traveling around a bit, then yes, this is a good choice. But for the one that's if you are a person who has vision problems, and if you're looking at the size factor, and if you then the 11-inch may not be the most comfortable one, unless you have your eyes corrected by laser surgery or maybe even using glasses, then it's fine. But if you're not one of those persons, when you're on the go, you don't want to use that, then the 11-inch may not be the best choice in that case. Now again, you have the 11-inch 128 and 256. If you look at them, they are more or less the same. The only difference is the hard drive space. So if you need more space for actually storing your data, then the 256 GB is a good choice. It's only $1,200, so there is a $200 difference, and this is an education price, mind you. Then again, do you want a larger screen? Do you have to use more stuff? Do you have to have more than one window open? Then the 13-inch MacBook Air is a good choice. It is light, it is thin, and the price is really good. From $999, it's changing to $1099 if you go from 11-inch to a 13-inch for a 128 GB. So this is ideal actually for your work. This is ideal for actually school, university, and work, because 128 GB can actually fit most of your personal, work, and school related stuff. But again, if you're looking for more space, there you go, you have the 256 one. Now most of them come with a 4 GB RAM, but since it comes combined with a Haswell processor and a combined integrated graphics display, the processing speed is quite fast. The RAM is not really an issue here, and you're not planning to use these computers, the MacBook Airs, for heavy intense jobs. Therefore, for that reason, students, university students, high school students, teachers who are using it for their work, and you just want to use it exclusively for your work, this is your choice, this is your computer. But for the ones that wants a really intense work done, who needs a little bit more processing power, then I wouldn't suggest or recommend this. So here are the budget computers from MacBook Air or from Apple. So the prices are good if you're a student or you're working in an education environment. Of course, mind you, these prices will be higher by $200 if you are buying a regular computer. So for that reason, again, the MacBook Air would be a good choice. That's it for now. So my final decision, the budget conscious with the least number of specs, travel comfort, I would go with the 11-inch or the 13-inch MacBook Air. And if I need more power for my processing and I can compromise on the display, the MacBook 13-inch with the following specs is what I would go: 2.9, 8 GB, 1 terabyte, and it will cost you $1,550. That would be my choice. But again, if I really have no concern about the money that I have to spend, the 15-inch 2.3 gigahertz, I can improve the specs by changing the processor power here if I need to. And this would be a good choice if you're really going in for some heavy work and you really can't invest on a computer all the time. So therefore, the extra $200 or $300 that you may spend for changing the processor to 2.6 or changing the hard drive to a 1 terabyte, if you really can afford it, yes, that's a good way to go. Or I would simply go with a 512, add an additional hard drive, and that would be it. Looked at all of the computers that I had. I've just compiled a couple of slides for you to compare the specs and what choices I would make. And here I have classified them into 3. Budget conscious decision. So here are the choices that I have. The prices quoted are educational pricing, so you may want to add $200 to the actual price that is shown here. But again, if you have a student or a teacher or somebody living in your home, you can definitely buy one of these education priced MacBooks or MacBook Pros. Now, looking at the budget conscious decision, if your focus is on productivity, mobility, and price, then the MacBook Air 11 with 128 GB of RAM is the best choice. Here, what you would be compromising is the hard disk space. But again, since you're looking at mobility, carry it around for your day-to-day work, then I would go with the $999 version. Now, if you're going for heavy-duty video editing software that requires processing power, then your choice will be MacBook Pro, the 500 GB. It's $1299. It has got 8 GB of RAM. That is more than enough for most of your work. The only compromise that you would be making here is you will not have a Retina display. But the upside is you can actually swap the hard drive for a solid state drive if you are comfortable with opening your computer and replacing it later. And since it has a super drive, you can also replace the super drive with a second hard drive. That's something that you can think about. So there are a number of options where you can upgrade this MacBook Pro in terms of the hard drive. I consider very important, and for that reason I would always recommend the MacBook Pro. Once this model is out the window, you will not have the ability to actually play around with your hardware. So for that reason I like it, but I would be compromising, or you would be compromising, on the Retina display. Well, if that's the case, then you can always go, if you need a Retina display, go for the MacBook Pro with a 256 GB. The price is about $1549. It has got 8 GB RAM, 2.4 gigahertz. The processing speed is slightly lower than the MacBook Pro, but since it is actually an integrated processor with a graphics card, the processing power tends to be a little bit higher. For that reason, the system is configured in like that. For that reason, it is the smaller processing power of the MacBook Pro Retina is still actually works out to your advantage. The downside would be you would need an external hard drive to carry most of your data. But you can always, when you're on the go, you can actually maintain the space so that you can do your day-to-day work. But when you come back home, you can always back it up. So I think that would be a practical thing to do in order to keep your data safe and have more space for your work. The next type, if you're looking at a flexible budget, then what would be your choices? I would go with a MacBook Air 13-inch, 256 GB. The price is $1299. The primary focus would be on the productivity, on its mobility, and it has got an 8 GB RAM, so makes the processing really fast. So your software opens up faster. You can watch video without any problems. But again, MacBook Air has got a lower processing power. All MacBook Airs do have that. So since you're looking at productivity, mobility, yes, this is a good choice. Now, the most practical decision, if you are willing to pay the extra money, would be the MacBook Pro. And this is the heaviest computer that you can get. So the weight of the computer is comparably higher than for the MacBook Pro in comparison to the MacBook Retina. So that's something that you may want to think about. The price is $1549. It has got 8 GB of RAM. The hard drive space can be 1 terabyte. The processor speed is 2.9 gigahertz, one of the highest in the MacBook line. It is good for productivity and video editing, which kind of tells you how intense your system can work. The downside is it does not have a Retina display. You can actually augment it by having a separate, either a Thunderbolt display or even a very good monitor at home. So you can complement it with that, but I would still not think it will be as good as a Retina display that you will have on a Mac when it is integrated. So that's the downside, but this would be the best choice if you're looking at a Mac, because you can actually play around with it. You can swap the hard drive. You can add a second hard drive to the super drive by swapping it for a caddy with the hard drive installed in it. So that's something that you can think about if you are willing to play around with your MacBook Pro. Now, if money is not a constraint, and if you're willing to go a little bit further, this $1,549, and if you're willing to go to $2,349, you can have the MacBook Pro 15, which is an i7 with a 512 GB. It has got that is a very good computer, especially the screen is quite large, and if you want to do multiple files open, it would give you a really good playing all of your material. The graphics card is Intel Iris Pro graphics, so it's better. And the compromise would be on the processor speed. But again, like I said already, these are integrated systems where you have the Haswell processor and the GPU integrated. Therefore, actually, it gives you a slight edge because of the solid state drive that is combined with. So that should not be much of a problem. But this is an alternate choice if you want a larger screen. The 15-inch is good if you look at the screen size, and it's a Retina 2. So you have your three choices here. My pick would be the MacBook Pro. If you don't have any budget constraints, look at the educational pricing. So it's starting at $1,449 for a MacBook Air 11, the MacBook Air 13. These are all i7s. You have $1,849, and MacBook Pro Retina 1TB, $2,749, and the most expensive one with the highest specs, you get $3,349. Now the choice is yours. How much are you willing to spend? Is it somewhere around $3,500? Is it somewhere close to $3,000? Or is it about $2,000 or $1,500? It depends on that. It's primarily depends on that. Once you've made that decision, then you're looking at what your requirements are. If you're looking at the MacBook Air, you're looking at mobility and speed and size. If you're looking at performance, you're looking at the MacBook Pro Retina or the MacBook 15-inch Retina. These are the performance one. This is the MacBook 15-inch Retina 1TB i7 has got a very good GPU processing power, so your videos will look amazing and your video editing would be really fast. So that's something that you want to look at. It has got a 16 GB RAM and the NVIDIA GeForce 750 graphics card with a 2 GB DDR5 memory. That the GPU power is really good for that, I would think. So for that reason, you are the judge here. Your price is the constraint, and the only thing that you'll be looking for is processing power versus mobility. So if those are your two choices, you can either go for the MacBook Air or the MacBook Retina. So you are the best judge for that. That's it for now. Happy hunting for a good Mac, and if you like the video, please don't hesitate to rate, comment, and subscribe. Thank you and have a great day.